Hello, YouTube family, and welcome to another edition of The Kevin Strong Show. And in this video, we're going to talk about, is your job comfort leading you into poverty? So many people out there refuse to get out of their comfort zone. We're going to talk about an article that talks a little bit about that and how people are struggling to find jobs. Some of them are in the service sector. Some of them are actually high-paying sales jobs, and some people just can't land on their proverbial feet. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about some things at the end of this video. So if you're enjoying this type of content, please do me the honor of smashing that like button, commenting, and share, because I care. And as promised, I'm going to share a very personal and painful experience that I went through that kind of ties to this article a little bit. And I'm also going to talk about a guest that I'm trying to line up the latter part of November. A very, very, very special lady. Got a very, very heart felt story, how she pulled herself out. So it's all good in the hood, as we say. But without further ado, once again, we're going to jump into this article. Once again, the title of this video is your job comfort leading you into poverty? So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start this. The title of this article is called Why Millions of Job Seekers Aren't Getting Hired in This Hot Job Market. So it starts off by saying, hey, look, the United States has a record number of job openings, but many firms continue to favor candidates with several years of experience, availability to work evening or weekend hours, and a willingness to work in person. So we all know what happened in March of 2020. We got a federal mandate that basically sequestered us into our homes. People couldn't work only if you were an essential worker. I think something happened, in my humble opinion, about people's mindset. There's a ton of money that was put into the economy to keep it going. You can make an argument on both sides of that, or whether or not that exacerbated our current inflation situation. Personally, I feel that it did. I don't think it's exclusive, but I think it definitely was an accelerant to the inflationary pressures that we're dealing with in today's society. So I'm going to pull down a little bit on this article. I've already printed it out, so I'm not going to scroll down and read it verbatim, but I'm just going to kind of leave this as the footprint, so to speak, of this article. And the first example that I want to talk about is this lady named Miss Hampton. If I can find it here. So this lady, Miss Hampton, here's her story, guys. She spent years mixing drinks as a bartender at a popular nightclub in downtown San Antonio, Texas. But like I said, when the pandemic hit, she had to basically rethink her job. She was hobbled by COVID infections herself. She's seen some of her friends get killed. She's had a friend who had a 70-year-old mother who was really close to her, and that person died last month after spending 3 months in the hospital. Now, this article is from the Washington Post, and it's dated just November 8th of this year, so it is a recent article. And this Miss Hampton goes on to say there's another bartender that she knew that contracted COVID after returning to work and ended up in the hospital on a ventilator. So she's basically saying, hey, few people in Texas wear masks in bars and restaurants, okay? She's 40 years old. She's been scouring job sites for work from home positions in customer service and other fields, so she won't have to return to bartending in a packed club. Okay, so understand this without any shade passing on this particular person. This person does not feel comfortable about assimilating back into large crowds because she thinks that's going to increase her chances of catching COVID. It doesn't indicate in this article whether or not this person is vaccinated, but clearly because there's been someone close to her and friends close to her, that has invoked a fear that is preventing her to go back to work in a normal setting. And as a result, as the article indicated, she's relying on trying to find employment in a remote setup. But basically giving her skill set, it seems like she has the type of work experience that requires you to work in person. So I say all this on this one particular article, and this is going to be a common theme throughout this video. A lot of times we have choices. You may not like your options, but you do have options. And when you unilaterally decide to remove that option, you have less options, regardless if it's something that you feel you are comfortable in doing. The thing that you're least likely comfortable to do might be ending up being the path to prosperity. So that was the first article. Then the article goes on and says there's a growing preference for remote work among job seekers. So as you guys know, something's happened in our job market where people want flex hours, higher benefits, higher wages. I'm not saying that you don't deserve that, but once again, when you have limited choices and you take those choices off the table, you're not left with that many options. Some 55% of people on ZipRecruiter reported looking for a job that would allow them to work from home. We're going to scroll down here now and then go to the second story that I want to talk about. This guy's name is obviously Jerry. So here's Jerry's situation. As you can see at the beginning of this article, Jerry's 62 years old, stopped working right before the pandemic back in 2019 because he injured his wrist. He was cleared to go back to work again, but the vast majority of retail jobs require online applications, and he's finding it hard to get past the algorithms that scan applicants. So here's what's happening now for some of you folks who are out there that may have a gap in your employment history and wondering why you're not even getting an interview. Some of these algorithms are basically looking for gaps in your employment. And if there's a gap in your employment, you're automatically discarded from the hiring process. So what some of these employers are doing is using AI, artificial intelligence, to streamline the hiring process. So from their perspective, based on what they want, they're only lining up applicants who have a consistent job record. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people to no fault of their own that get pushed on the sideline, back in 2020. But last year, that really wasn't the case. Some people decided not to work for whatever reason. And now that you need to go back to work, now you're having to pay the consequences for that choice. Once again, I'm not putting any shade on anybody, but I'm just saying these are some of the things that I'm finding out about by some of the employers. So the article goes on to say he has only had 3 interviews since June and no job offers. In one interview, a store manager bluntly stated that he only wanted to hire someone who would be around a long time. Translation, you too old, homie. Used to be my homie, but now you act like you don't know me, as Ice Cube once said. So here's another story. This person, despite having a college degree and decades of experience in executive roles in sales, this particular individual was rejected within hours for anything she applied to online. She used her network to get some interviews, but many tell her she's overqualified for the roles they have open. And then it says here, even if I'm willing to take a pay cut, I can't get back into the workforce. This person says they live in Manhattan, New York. I was successful. I'm 52 and I'm thinking, am I over the hill? So once again, this may not seem like it's complacency, but you have to learn how to reinvent yourself. And the old job market and the way we went about hiring and firing and doing things like that prior to the pandemic has fundamentally changed. I don't think we're going back to that business model anymore. And then moving forward, I think it's incumbent upon a lot of people to develop some necessary skill sets to make sure they're keeping up with technology in the job market. Because if you don't keep up with technology will leave you behind. If you don't believe that, ask Kodak, for those of you who are old enough. So in summary, many job seekers say they are looking for new lines of work because they want more flexibility or different career paths, potentially exacerbating mismatches between job posts and the experience levels of job seekers in the market. Clint Eastwood is famous for saying in one of his movies, a man's got to know his limitations. At the same time, industries that have faced the biggest hiring struggles and most quit are increasingly looking for employees who have some experience in this area because they are a safer bet. So, like I said, it's a really, really, really hot situation here to try to figure out, what's going on. You got to constantly reinvent yourself. If you are a service or in hospitality, that's not going to cut it anymore. I'm sorry to say, you're not going to be able to probably maintain any standard of living on that type of income. And then automation, things are just changing. You have to come out of your comfort zone, try to find out what's hot in the job market, learn a new skill, learn a new trade, come out of your comfort zone. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. So, as I promised, I was going to share a personal story with you. So, I was a college graduate, graduated later. I didn't get my degree until I was like 30 years old, and I was like 1994. And it was a couple years after that I had left this job I had. Actually, I was cleaning sewers, and it was a really tough time for me. It was a situation where I had just recently gotten divorced, so I was doing the weekend dad thing. And for those of you who are familiar with Cleveland, Ohio, you know how cold it gets. So, and I had very little money back then. So I had just left that job. I was an assistant manager at Sherman-Williams in the Cleveland, Ohio area. I think that might have been in 95, 90, 96, something like that. It was in the mid to late 90s. And this guy rented this room to me, but it was cheap, but it didn't have any heat. So the way I was able to heat this place up was with kerosene. You guys stay with me because there's a little funny story to it, but it's sad, but it's still funny. You know me, I gotta bring humor into my videos. So I couldn't afford to heat the room that I was staying in the whole time I was there because kerosene was just too expensive. So what I decided to do was just heat the place up really, really hot just before I went to sleep and then turn it off at night. And that way I can conserve enough kerosene heat. So when I picked my daughter up and she stayed in that little area with me, I could afford to keep the heat going the whole time she was over for the weekend. So I say all that to say I remember a few times where I would get up in the morning and I had a thermostat because I had to bundle up with clothes and all this. Keep in mind, I'm a college graduate and I'm in my 30s. And it would be minus 10 degrees inside the place where I'm sleeping because there's no heat. So what I would do, I'd bundle up and I'd have like a little lighter and I would come out and flick it to turn the kerosene heat on and then warm the place up, take a bath and all that. So I had a bathroom, but I had like a little hot plate that I had to cook on the floor, and I had a refrigerator, and that was it. But me and my daughter, we made it work. So here's the funny part of the story. So I had a good friend named Al at the time, and he called me up out of the blue, and he's like, "Kevin, were you at the YMCA?" Because that's a place where we all used to work out at. And it was like a couple hours ago. And I started laughing. I'm like, "How the hell did you know I was at the Y?" And he was like, "Dude, the whole men's locker room smells like kerosene." So that's when I knew, holy shit, this stuff is in my pores. So did that for about 18 months. I as that one song goes, I got 8 million stories. I'm sure you guys got some stories out there of your own. But my point is that, a lot of people who know me know that, you just have to grind. Everybody's got a sad story. Maybe your story is worse or not as bad as someone else. But at the end of the day, you have to find a way to find footing on your ground and push outside of your comfort zone and do what you have to do. That's why I said at the beginning of this video, sometimes you have options. They may not be attractive, but you have options. Now, I didn't have to do that, but I had to take a significant pay cut because I had this job cleaning sewers for 8 years and it was paying me a decent wage at the time. And I was entering an assistant management program that was paying me like $5,000 or $6,000 less than what I was earning as a sewer worker. So if I wanted to make that transition to get out of that type of line of work, I had to take a major step back. So everybody's got a story. Like I said, I hope you found this video in a good place. This lady named Sheila is a dynamic person. This person was homeless. And now she's doing multiple six-figure businesses. And I think she's got a couple businesses. I think she's got credit repair. She's in real estate. She's building. She's loaning money. And this lady was in a freaking shelter less than 4 years ago. So I'm going to have her on my program later on this month. I'm looking forward to that interview. I'm going to be very raw and emotional and just share some things with her because I'm very, very proud of anyone who pulls themselves out of a difficult situation. I think a lot of people push away from stuff like that because it makes them re-examine their own self-worth, right? If I'm climbing on an incline at this level and yours is at that level and I'm getting a little bit ahead of you, what's that telling you? Maybe you're not trying enough. So, my motto, keep your credit score up and keep your debt down. This was the Kevin Strong Show. Once again, please do me the honor of hitting that like button, sharing this type of video, comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.